morning and welcome to CTD Interviews, a series of meetings with professionals of the ELT and business sector to talk about 21st century skills, coaching, training and development in education. Today we are going to talk about the role of the teacher and how it is changing. And I could not have invited the pillar of the ELT, an author whose books have been read by hundreds of thousands of language teachers. We have here with us Jeremy Harmer. Jeremy, welcome.
Good morning and how lovely to see you, and it's a pleasure to be here.
Thanks, Jeremy. Thank you so much. I'm really honored to have you here because
The honor is all mine.
No, Jeremy, I think you are the history of the ELT. Okay. Yes, I can.
At my age, I suppose that's about appropriate. Yes, but anyway.
Well, no, it's not about age, Jeremy. It's about the impact you've had on all of us. I started my career as a teacher, and the first book I bought and studied, it was the Practice of English Language Teaching.
Yeah.
So
that was that's the fourth edition. Yes.
Exactly. Yes, you are absolutely right. This is the fourth edition. But I would like to start with this book, Jeremy. The first edition was published in 1983. I did my homework.
Yes, indeed, you're right.
And I read one of your blogs where you defined this book a practice of continuing professional development. And if I may take a few minutes of your time and of our audience's time, I would like to read your introduction. Let's see if you remember what you wrote many years ago. These are your words, Jeremy. In a few days, as I write this, I will be going to a large English teachers conference in the USA, which has the title Tides of Change. A couple of weeks after, that is Poland, a weekend called New Challenges for Language Teaching and Learning in the Changing World. And then there's a Changes conference somewhere else. And then it's off to another country for a conference of who knows what, but changes and how to deal with them is the word. And here we are, Jeremy. Our conversation today is about changes in the teacher's life, in the teacher's role. So can you tell us, how do you see changes in the teacher's role?
There are so many answers to that, but I'll try and be brief. The first is to say, I couldn't possibly have imagined those years ago what change really looked like and has looked like in the last 12 months. The teachers' world has been turned upside down. Of course, it's not teachers, it's the whole world. But you and I live in the world of English language teaching as well as we live in the world of families and communities and so on. And the world of EFL teaching has been absolutely fundamentally changed. And it's provoked what I see as one of the most incredible sort of outpourings of creativity in our profession that I've seen in my whole lifetime. I think the way that some teachers have responded to what's happening is magnificent, creative, intelligent, caring, human, just incredible. And the real question is, for me, is that something special to this situation, or has it always been there within the teaching profession, this ability to change? So in a quick answer to your question, well, it's not quick but an answer to your question it comes from a quote that I first read from Penny Ear, but I don't think it was original from her, but where she talks about the difference between a teacher with 50 years experience and a teacher with 1 year's experience repeated 50 times. And we all know and have met in our lives as students and parents of school kids and as professionals, we've all met teachers of the last kind. People with 1 year's experience repeated 50 times, people who become trapped in a rut, trapped in a way of doing things. For whom, you can't blame people for this, but for whom the comfort of repeating routines and practices is too seductive and too comfortable to abandon. And we contrast them always with teachers who are forward-looking and open to change and excited by possibility and eager to try new things out and engaged with students. So that, and I know I'm coming to the end of this answer, so that for me, because people often ask you this kind of question, I'm sure they ask you as well, you know, what's the greatest characteristic a teacher can have? And I have been saying for quite the last few years, it's curiosity.
Yeah.
The ability to be permanently curious, not just about the world of methodology or the world of around us, but also curious about each and every student, about the new students in this new group I've got, about their lives and how they learn and what's going on. And students recognize that curiosity. And on the contrary, they recognize it when teachers appear to have stop being curious. So that's my answer. Change is a constant, ongoing thing. We know a lot of things about education. You and I, with our different kind of chronological age, can look back at things we believed at the very beginning, which we still believe.
Yeah.
But we can also look back at things that we did and believed then. And it's not that they were wrong, it's just that it changed.
Yeah. Yes. Thanks, Jeremy. And I'm really happy to hear the words curiosity and creativity, because I think that these two skills are really very important for a teacher, but they are very important also for the students. I think that a teacher has to be able to instill curiosity and creative thinking to their students. I mean, these are two of the skills that relate to the 21st century skills that are so important for our students today. But do you also think that, okay, we've seen the changes in the role of the teacher, but do you also think that the expectations of the students have changed?
I think that's much more difficult to pinpoint. Look, we, in some way, this is what happens in society, whether it's Italy or the UK or quite obviously the United States, is this tension always between a kind of conservative view of the world, wanting things to stay secure as they are, and a forward-looking view of the world. And we're trapped in that dichotomy in education, just as everyone else is. So, for example, I think the role of the teacher and the way we talk about it and feel about it has shifted significantly, and we'll come on to that in a minute. But at the same time, students still take exams. Well, he used to, not so much anymore while this pandemic lasts. I don't know about the Italian education system, but we've had our complete chaos last summer about exams for school kids, which was so badly mishandled by our government. But we still live in an exam oriented world. We still live in a world where we are concerned, and for reasons which I entirely understand, to measure things, to measure progress, to be able to award certificates saying you are this good or that good, so that that means that say your kids can study in a foreign university or that kind of thing. They can hopefully get jobs, in other countries and so on and so forth. But at the same time, that outpouring of creativity I mentioned, which especially the sudden jump into online teaching has demonstrated beyond all doubt, fights against that. And it's a tension which may never be resolved. Maybe it's been there for the whole of history. The young Turks versus the old guard, and I don't quite know how to resolve it, except to say that curiosity that we both talk about is a sort of antidote, if you like. It's even in situations where teaching has remained somewhat, I was going to say traditional, but that's not what I mean. It remains somewhat unchanged. The students who do well are not the students who receive it passively. The students who do well are ones who kind of bring their intelligence, their individuality, their curiosity, their own creativity to bear.
Yeah.
And it's possible that they will be able to do that however they're taught. But I think our experience and our profound belief is that if the teacher offers them food for that creativity, they're just going to go much further.
Exactly. I think opportunities. I think that the teacher has to guide the student to look for opportunities, to look for new things to do. I mean, we've been put in front of such a difficult situation in the past months, and we still are, that I strongly believe that those people who are able to see beyond the daily routine, the usual things that they have in their lives, will be able to overcome these difficult times and succeed. And I think that the teacher has a very important role to help and guide the students towards this openness.
I couldn't agree more. I think I'm hopeful that if and when we return to face-to-face teaching, classroom teaching, although that's quite a big question. Indeed, the last time I was in your institute, which was quite a few years ago, we had a conversation. I can't quite remember it very well, but sort of along these lines. You'd built yourself a very nice sort of lab and with computers and hookups and things like that. So we've been anticipating this, not a pandemic, for God's sake, but this blend of sort of online and face-to-face teaching. But anyway, I'm getting off the point. But what I was going to say is that when and if we return to classroom participation, I hope we carry some of the lessons back into the classroom from what we've learned. And the thing we have learned beyond any doubt online is the need for community, the need to establish community, to nurture that community, to make community, if you like, almost the most important aspect of the online environment. If you have a group, how do you make the group an organism, a self-supporting organism? How does the teacher? We need to spend more time online creating that contact and that connection, and that involves getting students to talk to each other and support each other. It has some enormous advantages, like the ability to work in many kind of different channels at the same time. So much easier than a face-to-face classroom. We can simultaneously be engaged in whole group practices, but at the same time in touch with individual students, opening up different channels of communication. We can ask students to help each other with technical difficulties and so on and so forth, and creating that kind of community is a sort of absolute must if you're going to make online teaching successful. And I suspect all classes have a kind of organic feel in a classroom, but I'm not sure we've ever taken so much care before to create that sense of community.
Yes. Thank you. Thanks, Jeremy. It was a very, very nice conversation. Now, I would like to finish our conversation with a personal question.
Yes, sure.
And I can see you have a love, for a passion for music. I mean, I can see how many guitars have you got there? 2, 3, 4,
I've got 3, 6, and
6.
there's another one somewhere, and there's another one in a case. So I've got about 8 altogether.
Okay. So moving from the ELT sector, Jeremy, what are your future plans with music?
Well, by the way, just to let you know, because in the background there's a double bass, and that belongs to my daughter. Okay. She lives in quite a small flat, and she's just had a baby, and so she's asked me to look after it. As a result of which, I've been playing it and recording with it. Another new instrument I can't resist telling you about is this one behind me here. Yes. And that's a hand harmonium, which is very popular in sort of Indian and Pakistani music, and that's a recent acquisition. What are my plans with music? I can't stop playing music. It's about 50% of my life, and it's become, especially in lockdown, more of my life. New songs, a lot of recording. I've been making silly videos of my songs and putting them up on YouTube, where you get quite a few of me at the same time, which is probably quite a few too many, but it amuses me. I'm in the middle of making a new CD, which, because of lockdown, all the voices and all the instruments are played by me. Okay. And I did all the recording and the mixing for it. So those kind of projects have apart from my professional life, which is writing books and giving talks and training, have been very sustaining in this lockdown period. And I don't know, I mean, I always was a musician before I got into language teaching. And then, because of the language teaching life and then becoming a father of young children, it kind of faded into the background a little bit. But it's come back a lot in the recent past. And partly because we spend a lot of our time inside these days, and are in the past, before the pandemic, I would be out often in the evening singing in a folk club or orchestra rehearsal or something. Well, we don't do any of that anymore. And one last thing, I was away for a bit, and I got back to the UK on March the 9th, I think it was, 10th, last year. And I was really excited to be back, and I was going to play live music, and I had a gig booked, a musical reunion booked in Suffolk, a bit of away from here, for March the 20th. Well, of course, I got a message from the organizer saying, yeah, well, I'm afraid it's got to be cancelled. And then lockdown started. I was sitting at the breakfast table with my cup of coffee, and I said, look, I've used Zoom for editorial meetings and things like that. It was still very new to many people then. Shall we try that? And the result is March the 20th, we had our first ever lockdown folk. Tomorrow will be the 92nd meeting. Whoa. We get people from all over the world, from the United States, right, from Germany, Switzerland, Spain and so on and so forth. Some of the best music I've ever heard. And I want to bring this back to all of the conversation we were just having. The absolute surprise to me has been the incredible warmth and connection you feel. So that when somebody plays or sings something beautiful and there are 30 faces on the screen in front of you, you can feel the silence. You can feel the emotion. You can feel this kind of community warmth spreading around the room, except it's not a room, it's a screen.
It's a screen.
And I think what I want to say, and this might be a good point to sort of, well, not necessarily finish, but what I want to say is, you know, this pandemic has produced examples of kindness, support, and connection, which if you had looked at it objectively and described the conditions, you would have said was impossible.
Yeah.
But it's been unbelievable. And those folk sessions, for me, have been eye-opening. That even in these circumstances, we have been able to make a community. And I repeat what I said about the role of the teacher is about creating and nurturing and making that community. And after that, we can start talking about what we need to teach, how I think we need to prioritize content over grammatical language, although grammar matters, but how we need to prioritize what we do in class over some of the more drier routines we used to go through. And all of that I've learned through this extraordinary period.
Jeremy, thank you so much. And I would like to finish with these last words, which are really, really inspiring for me and for all the teachers who are going to listen to these interviews. Jeremy, it's always a great pleasure to talk to you. Thank you for everything you've done in your life to help us and guide us, teachers, teacher trainers. So thank you so much. And I look forward to your new CD and your books. So thanks, Jeremy. Thank you.
Thank you, Palmina. And it's a great honor to be part of your wonderful new initiative.
Thanks.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
Thank you.